Question number 12. Barbara Stewart.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Does he believe Hong Kong-based he-run international investments plan to build a dairy factory in Otorohanga will benefit the Waikato and the wider New Zealand dairy industry? If so, why?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr Speaker, I haven't seen the full detail of the particular proposal, so can't comment specifically, but generally, new dairy investments reinforce the fact that the medium to long-term outlook for the New Zealand dairy industry is indeed very positive. These investments often generate hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars for local economies and help support regional economic growth.
Supplementary. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Order. I haven't called the member yet. Supplementary question, Barbara Stewart.
Thank you. Does he believe it right that Fonterra farmers in the King Country will have to supply a direct competitor with 50 million litres of milk at just above cost because this government wants foreign companies to have a hand up?
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr Speaker, I wouldn't agree with the latter part of that question. To the first part of it, if the member was up to speed with what was happening in the dairy industry, she would in fact know that recently Minister Goldsmith and I announced that we have requested a report beginning next month on the state of competition in New Zealand's dairy industry, which will in fact address this.
Supplementary question, David Seymour.
Sir, explain the difference between $1 of foreign capital invested from Hong Kong, as the member noted in her primary, or $1 of foreign capital from Australia, Switzerland, the US, UK, Canada, France, Germany or Russia.
Order. I think there's very little ministerial responsibility for that. Further supplementary. Supplementary question, Barbara. Order. I did. Barbara Stewart, supplementary
Thank you,
question.
Mr Speaker. Given he-run follows the larger Yasili factory at Pokeno, Yili's expansion of Oceania Dairy, Bright Country-controlled Sinlay and Dan Yearn's purchase of Guardians, does he have any concern that we're on the path to becoming farm labourers in our own country?
Honourable Nathan Guy.
No, I reject the latter part of that question. In fact, I'm embarrassed that the members even bothered to raise it in the House.
Point of order.
Point of order, Barbara Stewart.
I seek leave to table an extract from the Hong Kong company list showing he-run was only incorporated at the beginning of May.
Order. Order. Leave is sought to table that information. Hong Kong Company Register. Is there any objection? There is no objection. It can be tabled. That concludes questions for oral answer. Point of order. Honourable Gerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I didn't raise it at the time because I thought it wasn't of such significance at the time. But I do think in general it would be useful if you could have a look at question 2 and perhaps the paperwork that was provided that would lead to a question saying that this was a site or that this was a proposal that would house on the site of an electrical substation, when quite clearly that's completely nonsensical and shouldn't have been allowed.
Order. I will have a look. I will have a look for the member's sake, but it was an authenticated question, and I think order. I'm speaking. It was based, I think, on authentication that was gained from a paper tabled yesterday in the House. But I will have a further look at the question. Order. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1. When this debate was
2015-16 Estimates Bill, interrupted debate on second reading and amendment proposed thereto.
When this debate was last before the House, Eugenie Sage was speaking. She has 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining.